Welcome back. It's Rick with G12 Communications, again, joined by Jaron and Rob. And we're going to walk through continuing to set up your organization. We're going to work through a call queue build for customer service or customer support. We're going to go back to an auto attendant, work through an auto attendant, and then a whole host of other things. I'll let Jaron take off and start rolling with his configuration here. Jaron?
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. So like Rick said, we're going to effectively build pieces of our mainline call flow. And so we're going to start kind of from the back, and we're going to build the customer support call queue first. And then we'll come back around and we'll build the mainline auto attendant, and we'll tie those two pieces together. So in the Teams admin console here, we're going to go down to the voice section, and we'll select call queues here. So today we don't have any created. What we're going to do is hit the plus and add, and we're going to name this customer support call queue. The way that we tie a phone number to a call queue and to an auto attendant is by way of resource accounts. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to tie a resource account that I previously created for this to the call queue. All right, so we've named our call queue CQ _ resource account for customer support. We're going to add that, and we'll add it to the dashboard here. So now we've effectively got a resource account tied to this call queue. That resource account does require a license, and there is a virtual license that Microsoft has dropped into our tenant that was free that we've been able to tie to that. Each organization gets up to so many. In this case, we're using this free license to tie to the resource account.
So a resource account, and I just want to liken it in the UCaaS space just really quickly, because that's what I'm familiar with. So in the UCaaS space, we have what are called routing users, and they're users that we create. They have an extension as an example, but it's for the auto attendant. It's signed to an auto attendant, assigned to a call queue, those sorts of things. That's what this resource account would be called, or
exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, you need an object in Azure AD. It's an unlicensed account, but it's an object that helps us route. And then the phone system virtual license that's applied to it helps the system know this is going to be a voice routing user. And again, nothing there you're paying for, but it's important to have those references inside of Azure AD.
Got it. Very good. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So just going down the list here, so we're going to select our language. Here we're going to select English for the United States, because that's where we are. And we can prompt with a greeting. We have the option for no greeting, or we can upload an audio file. Today, we're just going to do no greeting. We can also select music on hold. So the default music is just what the Teams system is going to provide. If you have a specific song that you like, or a song that your organization has been using previously, you can take and upload that file by selecting play an audio file and then uploading the appropriate file. But today we're just going to select play the default, and we'll move down to call answering. So here it says you can choose either a channel or groups and individual users to answer incoming calls for this call queue. So the call queue is just Microsoft returning what we've historically used as a hunt group or a call group, essentially. So for this example here, we're not going to choose a team. You can choose a channel, but what we're going to do is we're going to choose users and groups. And so for this example here, what we're going to do is select a user, and we're going to, so we've selected our user or users, and we're going to hit add. If we wanted to add a group, we could use Azure AD groups to kind of logically group multiple users at once. So if we had an Azure AD group that our customer support group was a part of, we could just simply add that group or multiple groups.
Got it.
All right, so conference mode. For this, we're going to leave this off, and we're going to move down to routing method here. So the routing method, if you're familiar with hunt groups, these are essentially just the different ways that an incoming call will hit this call queue and attempt to ring the multiple users in the group. So attendant routing, serial routing, kind of one by one. Round robin is going to kind of just loop around until somebody answers it. And then longest idle is going to, the Teams environment is going to effectively look for who has been off the phone the longest.
So as you're building these little icons with the eye next to them are really helpful when you mouse over those. They'll tell you a bit more information. These are all documented out there on Microsoft's document site too. And a lot of times in here you'll find links that say learn more, and it'll take you right to that documentation. But if you need more granular information on attendant versus serial, it is all documented out under the Teams section of docs.microsoft.com.
Excellent. And that's what I was literally going to ask, is there a ring all option? And like, you click on the info box there, info circle, and there it is. It's the attendant routing, and that rings everyone. Is that right?
Attendant routing is the safest. It will always ring all of the agents all the time. The others are going to watch your presence. If you're on the call, it's not going to ring you. So if you really need to make sure everybody knows there's a call coming in, attendant routing is going to be your best bet.
Got it. Very good.
So we've got attendant routing. This is going to, like Rob said, this is going to ring everybody regardless of your Teams presence. And so for those of you not familiar with that, Teams presence it's just the indicator that Teams is checking in on what you're doing. So if you're on the phone, actively in a call, it's going to say, in a call. If you're in a meeting, it's going to say in a meeting. So by default, the presence-based routing is turned off. So that, in combination with attendant routing, is going to just ring everybody regardless of whether or not the attendants in this are in a call. If you don't want that to be the case, you can turn presence-based routing on, and then it's going Teams, the call queue system is going to basically check and see first, are my agents in a call? And if yes, then don't ring those people in a call. For our instance here, we've just got the one user in there, so we're gonna just leave this presence-based routing. Call agents can opt out of taking calls. Essentially here, the agent can choose to answer it if it's turned on. If it's turned off, then they can choose whether or not they want to answer the call or not. We've got a slider here where we can adjust the alert time. This is how long the call agent is going to be ring before perhaps it moves to another agent or moves to other call flow. And things like call overflow handling. This has to do with the maximum number of calls in the queue. So if it's your main line and it's perhaps very busy, during certain times of the day or something like that, you can set essentially the overflow call handling to redirect calls to basically an overflow call group or another user or something along those lines. And so in this case, we're just going to default here, but it's going to say that we have a maximum of 50 calls that can be in the call group queue waiting for an agent to answer before. In this case, it's going to disconnect the call, so the 51st user is going to get a disconnect. Or probably the better scenario here would be to redirect the call to perhaps an overflow manager or a second support group.
Well, let me just say I've been in several scenarios recently with in the healthcare space for COVID requirements, right? Where you run into this and the disconnect option after a certain amount of queue is probably the right one.
So the last option here that we have is the call timeout handling. And so what it says here is if the call isn't answered within the maximum wait time, it will be disconnected or redirected depending on what you select. And so it's kind of similar to the overflow. Basically, we're setting a threshold here that says somebody's going to wait in the queue. A caller is going to wait in the queue for 20 minutes maximum. And then after 20 minutes, we're going to have the call flow either disconnect them or redirect the call to. Again, we can redirect it to another call queue, auto attendant person, all of these different options here that we're going to see over and over as we look through the advanced call flows. So in this case here with the support, we may look to send this out to a manager's cell phone number in certain circumstances, or we may just send it out to a backup support desk. For our example here, we're going to just disconnect the call. We don't expect anybody to wait that long, because Brittany Bowen is awesome and she's going to answer every call.
She's just going to rifle right through them. Boom, boom, boom.
All right, so we've got our call queue configured here, and that is effectively sitting out in space. It does have a resource account tied to it, and we can see if we click over here on resource accounts, my screen is going to go blank.
So if there's a resource account tied to it, does that mean we could push a number to the call queue? Is it a number, or we can push some sort of I'm curious as how we leap from auto attendant, let's just say, to call queue, or just right into a call group. So maybe you call support and support has a direct phone number, right? So oftentimes you'll see, different groups have their own number and not go through sort of the main line organization, but so maybe they've got a direct phone number pointed right at that call group or call queue.
Yeah, so it's a great question there. So if we were going to, in this case, we'll probably show that as we go into the main line. But for our scenario here, we've got a call queue that's kind of sitting out in space right now. Internally, we can, from our Teams client, we can dial into and find essentially that resource account by its SIP address. And we can dial into that internally. But for the PSTN callers, our customers, we're going to want a DID tied to that resource account so that people outside the organization, which is the intent of the support desk there, can call in, and that resource account is going to hold that DID so that we can kind of bounce it off of that resource account and into the call queue. But we can do that with call queues and auto attendants. And I think for our example here, we're going to use the auto attendant as the main way in for our clients to call into our business, and then we'll the auto attendant to route to the call queue.
Okay, let me make sure I understand that. So basically, you've got the auto attendant set up, and maybe we're going to have a number from externally to get into the auto attendant, and then from the auto attendant to get to the call queue, it's going to be a SIP address that is going to drive it right into an internal SIP address that's going to go right to the call queue. That's how we're going to call queue. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and just go and configure our auto attendant real quick. So we'll call this G12 mainline, and we will indicate that there is a person in the organization as the operator. So if they press the button for operator, it's just going to, we've got Brittany Bowen statically assigned as the operator. And so it won't necessarily say her name, but it'll say, press 0 to reach the operator, and it'll transfer directly to Brittany's. We'll set the time zone here to Pacific and the language to English United States. So now we're going to turn off the voice inputs. Just know it is available there, that you can speak to the auto attendant and have it recognize your voice commands and route your call based on that. All right, so the next setting here that we have access to when we're creating it is call flow. So at this level here, we can, it says first play a greeting message. This is going to be the top level message. The options that we have here are no greeting. So we can just take it straight to the menu and pass over maybe an initial message, or we can upload an audio file. It gives you some specifics here on different types of files and restrictions that you can be aware of. Or we can type in a greeting message here, and the Teams system, the auto attendant system, will read this back to you with its voice, and it's actually surprisingly good. So for here, we'll say welcome to G12 Communications, the leader in Microsoft. Again, this is our main line for G12. We want to have that initial message pop, and then the next thing we're going to do is route to menu options. So we've got routing options here to either disconnect. So if we want just people to come in and hear that we're the leader in Microsoft Teams direct routing, disconnect the call. That's pretty brief, but it is possible. Direct the call to perhaps a receptionist and have him or her just answer the call during business hours. We can set that as the main, during business hours operation, and just redirect the call straight to another phone. In this case, though, for our main menu, we're going to send to menu options. And again, we have the option to set up a greeting where we can indicate the different buttons that we want to press, or the different routing options here. And so we can have somebody sit down and record with another application, record the audio file that says and gives the instructions. We can upload that file here, or we can type in a greeting here. If we want to do that, we can just say things like press 1.
If it's the same component or the same voice that records the voicemail so when you've got a voicemail greeting enabled, and it says, you've reached, I think there's a basic greeting that is turned on with Microsoft. It says you've reached so-and-so, the user, and it's the bot that repeats the name of the user, right? It's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It nothing beats a personal or professional recording. This is come a long way. So this is the best for when you're building it out. You just want to get your flows down. Just type the message. And then in the end, you actually could leave it. If you've got all the pronunciations down, sometimes you have to type it in a certain way to get it to say abbreviations exactly the way you want it. Yeah, in the end, if it's something that's going to be the front end of your business, taking the time to record the final greeting and upload it is really recommended.
Yeah, with our UCaaS customers, we do professional greetings that come with the solution. So we feel the same way, right? From a user experience and a customer experience perspective, we like the real talent. But I was pretty impressed with the voicemail greetings that automatically came on the Teams interface. So that was pretty cool.
That's fantastic. I didn't know that you guys offer those recordings for your UCaaS solution. That's fantastic. That's oftentimes, so I've been migrating phone systems for a long time. And that's oftentimes one of the stickiest parts is getting those messages recorded and uploaded into the system. So that's cool that you guys do that.
We do that because in 2011, when we first started, we hand a piece of paper over to somebody and say, okay, now go record all your greetings so that we can test everything for you. And literally that many people actually did the greetings when we asked them to do the greetings. So we thought we needed a better way. So we commissioned a studio. It's a studio here in Seattle that does all the greetings for us when we do the initial deployment for all our customers. And it's auto attendance, it's call queue greetings, it's name greetings, and it's voicemail greetings. So they're all pretty standard with the same voice talent across the board.
Again, yeah, that's one of the stickiest pieces that I've run into in my 10 years doing this is just getting those recorded. So
yeah,
I thought that this was pretty good, but I guess now I'm calling you guys whenever I'm doing that. All right, so we've got our menu options greeting here, and really this is just indicating, press 1 for the front desk. And what we're going to do, you'll see as we go through the menus here, we're going to tie that front desk to our receptionist, our user, and then press 2 for customer support here, which we're going to tie to the call queue. So we'll go down to the set menu options down here, and we'll hit the assign a dial key, and we'll select option 1. Well, I guess actually let's start for option 0 with the operator, which is indicated as Brittany. And we'll do option 1. And we'll set this to a person in the organization. And put in Oliver Henry. So Oliver is our receptionist. And we'll assign another key here, and we'll hit 2. And we're going to select the call queue. So to get the auto attendant to route to the call queue, we're going to select voice as. And what it's going to search for is the resource account. So we're going to search for CQ call queue underscore, and we'll find CQ underscore resource underscore customer support. All right, so we've got our 3 options in there, and the last one here that we want to select here is directory search. And so previously when we did this in Exchange for years and years, we would tie this to a menu option. Today, this is basically, you can turn it off for the auto attendant. You can name your name or dial by extension. So if you're going to choose dial by extension, you need to have extensions configured on your users, line URIs, and it's all your resource accounts. But for our purpose here, and most often what I see configured is dial by name. So we're going to select that, and we're going to hit submit. And you'll notice here, as we're creating a new auto attendant, we got only a few of these options here on the left. We got general info and call flow. And now that we've got it created, we can go back into that auto attendant, and we can configure additional settings. So we'll take just a quick peek at those. So business hours, essentially as the organization, we can come in here and set business hours for this auto attendant. And so typically we're going to want to understand a little bit more about the call flow and say things like, if this is the main line, are we a 24-hour business, 24/7? Is there somebody answering that desk at all hours of the day? If yes, then we don't necessarily need to change this. If no, then we can create off business hours, and we can create additional call flow that happens essentially when we're outside of business hours. We can tell this auto attendant what our business hours are in relation to this auto attendant, and then we can set up additional call flow settings here. So play a different greeting message after hours and route the call differently. For our purpose here, we're not going to change any of that, but we'll take a peek at holidays, which is very similar. Essentially, we're going to tell the organization within Teams what our business holidays are. Maybe it's Christmas, maybe it's Thanksgiving, whatever it may be. We'll indicate that in the system, and then we can come in here and customize very similarly what the different call flows are during holiday hours. We're going to leave that blank for this as well. And we'll go into panel scope. Just simply, this is essentially who can dial into this auto attendant. So the default here is going to say include essentially all online users, exclude nobody, right? So there are cases where you may want to come in here and create exclusions, or you may want to create certain groups that you want to exclude, and then create certain groups that can call into this. You have the power to do that here. The exclusions will use after 80 groups to create boundaries around who can dial into your auto attendant. All right, and last but not least, this is actually probably the most important portion of this for our purpose here. We want to get this auto attendant reachable by the PSTN. And so in this case, what we want to do is resource account so that we can tie the ID for this. So we've created a resource account called auto attendant _ resource _ mainline. And we're going to associate that account with this auto attendant. And the way this is going to work, inside of our organization, that auto attendant is actually dialable, searchable as G12 mainline using that SIP address. But we want to make this auto attendant reachable from the PSTN. So we're going to need to associate a DID with that. And in this case, we're using a service DID. We're going to assign this guy right here, 208-593-7846. We'll select that and hit assign. And we're going to assign that to a resource account. There we go. This is where we run into maybe a logistical issue here, because to do this for direct routing, we're going to want to select on premises here and then assign that that way. What we can do is assign it an online number and then give it essentially a service number, but that's going to kind of break what we're
Yeah. No, I understand. I understand the build certainly, and understand the basics here. This is excellent. I think the users out there who are wanting to understand if Teams will be something they can use in their organization, I think this has been really helpful. Again, we've gone over building users, licensing users. We've gone over the correct licenses for users. We've gone over building out the policy for the user. We've gone over building an auto attendant for your organization, a call queue for your organization, and routing those calls throughout your organization, call groups, things like that. So we've gone over quite a bit of information. And so I think you've done a really excellent job, both of you, in helping understand what it takes to build out their Teams infrastructure if they're using Teams for voice, or would like to use Teams for voice. Anything else, gentlemen, that you think is really key? Again, this is a high-level mini course. This is not a full-on classroom training. We want to give people an idea of what it takes to jump in here and manage. Most organizations, what you'll find, and this is in my experience, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but that organizations that are looking for professional deployment and structure building of their Teams environment come to professionals like CompuNet, right, and say, hey, help me with this platform. And then from the telephony piece, they come to, or the direct routing piece, they come to G12. And so I think those watchers can look in here, or the IT guys that are watching this can really take what they've learned here and take it to leadership and go, this is going to work for us. We can set this up. It's going to give us a lot more flexibility than we have today. Our users can be anywhere in the world, and we think this is going to work. And so they could literally take this video mini course that we've created and show their leadership that this is a possibility for them, and start to engage the proper resources like CompuNet and G12 to move forward. Any parting comments, gentlemen? You guys have taken an awful lot of time to help create this video series, and certainly want to thank you very much for the time and effort you've put into it. So any parting comments on anything that we've done here?
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak to your customers and the viewers that are part of this system. Teams usage has just exploded over this past year, and it's been tricky for Jared and I to get out and talk to as many customers as want to have these conversations. As more and more people continue to push Teams out to their users to help enable communications for a remote workforce, it always comes back to, well, this is really going really well. What does it look like to have this become our primary voice platform, our primary conferencing platform, our primary meeting room platform for when we go back into the office? So there's a lot more to come with Teams. Microsoft is iterating on it all the time, so it just keeps getting better and better. But hopefully with this series, you've come to realize that it is a very robust voice platform and is ready to power your organization's communications. Any future questions, please reach out to the G12 or CompuNet team. We'd be more than happy to walk you through various scenarios that are more relevant to your environment.
Excellent, excellent. Well, and for the users that are watching today, they don't know this just yet, but we plan on creating additional modules to add on to this kind of a again, mini course sort of additions to go over some things. And one of the ones that I'm really excited about is the end user training. Oftentimes, the limiting fear factor of deploying a platform is the training associated with, bringing on end users, right? So if I'm an IT person in an IT team that's got other projects ahead of the voice, but voice needs to be addressed because of the environment that we're in today, training the end users seems to be one of the ones that I'm most concerned about. And so we plan on putting together a quick module so that we can dive into using the video that we produce from CompuNet and G12 Communications. That video could be used to produce your trainings for your organization. So stay tuned for that. That's a bonus that we're going to email out to everyone as they progress through this 5-day mini course. We are going to have that as an add-on that we add at a later date, but I'm really excited about it. So thanks so much for watching, everyone. We appreciate you signing up for this 5-day mini course. If you have any questions for CompuNet and or G12 Communications about direct routing or Teams Microsoft voice calling, you know where to reach us. Comment below if you're watching on YouTube, or you can book meetings with us from our Calendly link, and certainly respond to the email. Okay. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.